As Jonathan Reed's seemingly perfect life unravels, a single slip of the tongue ignites a deadly chain of events, one that will expose his secret affair, ruin his career, and lead to a tragic accident that no one could have predicted. But the question remains. The buzz of keyboards clattering and phones ringing fill the air. But within this sea of corporate routine is Jonathan Reed, the CEO who commands respect with every step he takes. Jonathan, a man of precision and discipline, is admired and even feared by many of his employees. His work ethic is unparalleled, and his strict leadership style keeps the company running like a well-oiled machine. Jonathan is a man who believes in control. In his late 40s, he's built a reputation over the years as not just a boss, but a symbol of professionalism. He's the kind of man who arrives at the office at exactly 7 a.m. every morning, his suit perfectly tailored, his tie always neatly knotted. His employees whisper behind his back about how strict and unapproachable he is. Yet they also know he's fair. He's the kind of boss who never tolerates mediocrity, but rewards excellence with quiet approval. His presence alone keeps everyone in line. Despite his hard exterior at work, Jonathan has always prided himself on one thing above all: his loyalty to his wife, Evelyn Reed. Evelyn, in contrast to Jonathan, is a radiant woman with a warm smile and a graceful presence. In her late 30s, she's the kind of woman who turns heads wherever she goes. Evelyn's beauty is undeniable, but more than that, she's elegant and accomplished. She runs her own fashion boutique, which has become the talk of the town for its cutting-edge designs and high-profile clientele. Her social calendar is filled with charity events, galas, and meetings with important people from the fashion world. Jonathan has always been proud of his wife, and their marriage, at least from the outside, seems perfect. They have a beautiful home in the suburbs, vacation regularly in exotic locations, and appear to be the quintessential power couple. But beneath this seemingly perfect facade, cracks have begun to form. Cracks that neither Jonathan nor Evelyn seem to notice at first. Evelyn, busy with her boutique and social engagements, has less time to spend with Jonathan. Their conversations have become routine, centered around schedules and mundane details. The spark that once lit their relationship has dimmed over the years. Jonathan, though still deeply in love with Evelyn, feels an emptiness growing inside him. It's a subtle void, one that gnaws at him during quiet moments. He misses the intimacy they once shared, the attention she used to give him. But Evelyn, wrapped up in her work and charity efforts, seems oblivious to Jonathan's growing sense of isolation. She still loves him, but her priorities have shifted, leaving Jonathan feeling increasingly alone in their marriage. One day, Jonathan's routine is disrupted by the arrival of a new employee, Samantha Turner. Samantha is hired as his personal secretary, and while she doesn't stand out in terms of appearance, there's something about her that catches Jonathan's attention. She's in her late 20s, with brown hair tied neatly into a bun, a no-nonsense attitude, and an air of competence that makes her seem older than her years. Samantha isn't the type to turn heads in a room full of people, but she has a certain charm, a quiet confidence and attentiveness that Jonathan quickly grows to appreciate. She's quick to learn his preferences, memorizing the details of his daily routines with an almost unsettling precision. Jonathan's favorite coffee, his preferred lunch, even the way he likes his office arranged. Samantha knows it all within days of starting her job. At first, Jonathan doesn't think much of it. She's just doing her job, after all. But over time, he finds himself looking forward to their interactions. Samantha isn't like the others in the office who either fear or idolize him. She treats him with a casual friendliness that puts him at ease. Their conversations, while initially brief and strictly professional, gradually become more personal. Samantha starts asking about his day, his thoughts on various matters outside of work, and Jonathan finds himself opening up to her in ways he hasn't with anyone else in a long time. Jonathan's attraction to Samantha grows slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. It isn't her looks that draw him in. Evelyn is far more beautiful by any conventional standard. No, it's something deeper. It's the attention Samantha gives him, the way she makes him feel noticed, valued. Where Evelyn has become distant, preoccupied with her own life, Samantha offers him the kind of attention he's been craving. She listens to him, laughs at his jokes, remembers the little things about him that no one else seems to notice anymore. One day, after a particularly stressful meeting, Jonathan finds himself venting to Samantha. They're alone in his office, the rest of the staff having already left for the day. Samantha listens intently, nodding in all the right places, offering words of comfort that soothe Jonathan's frayed nerves. As the conversation continues, their eyes meet, and for a brief moment, something shifts between them. It's a subtle change, but it's there, a flicker of something more than just professional camaraderie. Jonathan brushes the feeling aside, telling himself that it's nothing. He's a married man and Samantha is his employee. But the next day and the day after that, he finds himself thinking about her more and more. It's not just her attentiveness that draws him in. It's the connection he feels with her, the way she seems to understand him in a way that Evelyn no longer does. The turning point comes one evening when Jonathan and Samantha are working late together. The office is empty, the lights dimmed, and the city outside is bathed in the golden glow of the setting sun. They've finished their work for the day, but neither of them seems eager to leave. They sit across from each other, the silence between them thick with unspoken tension. Samantha breaks the silence first. "You've been working too hard lately," she says softly, her eyes searching his. Jonathan leans back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "It's part of the job," he replies, but there's a weariness in his voice that betrays him. Samantha stands and walks over to his desk, leaning against it as she looks down at him. "You need to take better care of yourself, Jonathan. You can't keep running yourself into the ground like this." Jonathan looks up at her, his heart pounding in his chest. There's something in her gaze, something that he knows he should walk away from, but he doesn't. Instead, he stands, closing the distance between them. They're standing so close now, the air between them electric. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Jonathan says, his voice barely above a whisper. Samantha smiles, a soft, knowing smile. "I'm here for you, Jonathan. Always." In that moment, all the lines Jonathan had drawn in his mind blur. Before he can stop himself, he reaches out, gently touching her hand. Samantha doesn't pull away. Instead, she steps closer, her breath warm against his skin. And then, without another word, Jonathan leans in and kisses her, bringing himself to regret it. Samantha, for her part, responds eagerly, her hands sliding up his chest as they deepen the kiss. The affair begins that night, and though Jonathan tells himself it's just a temporary escape from his loneliness, deep down he knows it's more than that. Samantha has become the person who fills the void in his life, the one who makes him feel alive again. And so, despite the guilt gnawing at him, Jonathan continues the affair, unaware of the storm that's about to descend on his life. The affair between Jonathan and Samantha grows more intense with each passing week. What began as stolen moments in the office soon evolves into secret meetings at restaurants, late-night phone calls, and eventually hotel rendezvous. Jonathan, who once prided himself on his loyalty to Evelyn, now finds himself entangled in a web of lies and deceit. His double life becomes increasingly difficult to manage, but the thrill of being with Samantha makes it all feel worth the risk, at least for now. Samantha, for her part, is fully invested in the affair. She's no longer just a secretary. She's Jonathan's confidant, his escape from the pressures of both his professional and personal life. She relishes the attention Jonathan gives her, the sense of power she feels knowing she has captured the heart of a man like him. Their relationship is passionate. There's stolen moments filled with intensity that neither of them had expected. At first, Jonathan is careful to keep the affair hidden from Evelyn. He goes to great lengths to ensure that their communication remains secret, using a messaging app that Evelyn has no reason to suspect. He schedules his meetings with Samantha at odd hours, far from places where anyone who knows him might recognize them. He tells himself that as long as Evelyn never finds out, no one will get hurt. But beneath this veneer of control, Jonathan knows that the truth is a ticking time bomb, waiting to explode. Evelyn, meanwhile, begins to notice subtle changes in Jonathan's behavior. He's more distant than usual, distracted during their conversations, and spends more time at the office than he used to. But Jonathan has always been a hard worker, so Evelyn initially chalks it up to the pressures of his job. Still, a nagging feeling of unease starts to settle in the back of her mind. One evening, as they sit together at the dinner table, Jonathan's phone buzzes. It's a message from Samantha, but Jonathan quickly flips the phone over, hoping Evelyn hasn't noticed. But she has. She doesn't say anything, but the small gesture plants a seed of doubt in her mind. A few days later, Evelyn makes a casual comment during dinner, asking Jonathan about his day. To her shock, he accidentally calls her Samantha. It's a slip of the tongue, but it's enough to make Evelyn's suspicions grow. She doesn't confront him immediately, choosing instead to observe him more closely. She starts checking his phone, but finds nothing incriminating. Jonathan is careful, deleting any evidence of his affair. Still, Evelyn can't shake the feeling that something is wrong. As the days go by, Evelyn's suspicions deepen. She begins to notice more strange behavior. Jonathan working late more often than usual, his phone always close by, and an emotional distance between them that wasn't there before. One night, while Jonathan is in the shower, Evelyn's curiosity gets the better of her. She picks up his phone and discovers the unfamiliar app he's been using to communicate with Samantha. Her heart pounds as she opens the app, scrolling through the messages. There it is, confirmation of the affair she had feared. The messages between Jonathan and Samantha are intimate, detailing their secret meetings and their feelings for each other. Evelyn feels a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and betrayal wash over her. But she doesn't confront Jonathan immediately. Instead, she makes a plan. Evelyn decides to catch Jonathan in the act. She reads through the messages carefully, learning that Jonathan and Samantha planned to meet at a luxury hotel that weekend. Rather than confronting him at home, Evelyn arranges for a confrontation that will not only expose Jonathan's betrayal, but also humiliate him in a very public way. She enlists the help of a close friend, a journalist, to join her for the confrontation. If Jonathan wants to destroy their marriage with his affair, then Evelyn will make sure he pays the price for his betrayal. She wants the world to know what he's done. The weekend arrives and Jonathan, unaware of Evelyn's plan, leaves for his rendezvous with Samantha. They meet at the hotel, checking into their usual suite and prepare for another night of passion. But just as they begin to relax, there's a loud knock at the door. Jonathan's heart sinks. Something is wrong. Before he can react, the door bursts open and Evelyn storms into the room, her face a mask of fury. Behind her is her journalist friend, camera in hand, ready to capture the entire confrontation. Jonathan's mind races, but he knows there's no escaping the truth now. How could you? Evelyn's voice shakes with anger and hurt. After everything we've been through, after all I've done for you, this is how you repay me? Jonathan is speechless, his eyes wide with shock. Samantha, terrified, rushes to the bathroom, hiding from the confrontation. Jonathan tries to speak, but the words won't come. He knows he's in the wrong, knows that he's betrayed the woman who has stood by him for years. But there's nothing he can say that will make this right. Evelyn's rage boils over as she continues to berate Jonathan, her words cutting through him like a knife. She storms toward the bathroom, intending to confront Samantha, but in her fury, she doesn't notice the slippery floor. Her foot slips and she falls, her head hitting the sharp marble counter with a sickening thud. Jonathan rushes to her side, panic surging through him as he cradles her in his arms. Blood pools beneath her head, and Jonathan's heart pounds in his chest. Evelyn's eyes flutter closed, and Jonathan knows, in that moment, that everything has changed. The once vibrant energy of the hotel suite has dissolved into a scene of chaos and devastation. The sirens of an approaching ambulance wail in the distance, echoing through the night as Jonathan kneels beside Evelyn, his heart pounding in his chest. Her body lies limp in his arms, blood seeping from the wound on her head where she struck the marble counter. The luxurious hotel suite, once a secret haven for his affair with Samantha, now feels like a crime scene. Jonathan's hands shake as he presses them to Evelyn's wound, trying desperately to stop the bleeding. He calls her name, his voice breaking, but there is no response. The horror of the situation is sinking in fast. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't how things were meant to end. Evelyn wasn't supposed to die. All she can do is stare at the scene unfolding before her. Jonathan, the man she thought she knew, kneeling beside his dying wife, his world falling apart in front of her eyes. Samantha feels a deep, sinking guilt in her stomach. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It was just an affair, a secret, thrilling escape from their everyday lives. But now, it spiraled into a tragedy neither of them could have foreseen. The paramedics arrive, rushing into the room with a flurry of activity, but it's already too late. Evelyn is gone. The news of Evelyn's death spreads quickly. It doesn't take long for the media to pick up on the scandal. The story of the CEO's affair with his secretary, the tragic accident that led to his wife's death, and the public confrontation all become the talk of the town. Headlines splash across newspapers and online articles. CEO's affair ends in tragedy. The once revered Jonathan Reed is now a figure of public scorn, his reputation destroyed overnight. In the weeks that follow, Jonathan's life unravels. His company's board of directors calls for an emergency meeting, and it isn't long before he's asked to step down as CEO. The shareholders, once confident in his leadership, have lost faith in him after the scandal. His personal and professional life are in ruins, and Jonathan knows he has no one to blame but himself. Jonathan spends his days in the house he once shared with Evelyn, the silence of the empty rooms weighing heavily on him. The guilt is suffocating. He can't escape the image of her lying on the hotel floor, her life slipping away because of his betrayal. He can't escape the knowledge that his actions, his affair, his lies, are what led to her death. He destroyed everything he had. And for what? A fleeting romance with a woman who was never meant to be more than a distraction from his own loneliness. Samantha, meanwhile, is left to pick up the pieces of her own shattered life. The affair has cost her everything: her job, her reputation, her future. She's fired from the company almost immediately after the scandal breaks, and finding another job in the industry proves impossible with her name now linked to such a public disaster. The affair with Jonathan, which once seemed so thrilling and exciting, has become her downfall. She retreats into obscurity, trying to disappear from the public eye. For Jonathan, the guilt is a constant presence. He replays the events of that night over and over in his mind, wondering if there was anything he could have done differently. If only he hadn't let things go so far with Samantha. If only he had been honest with Evelyn from the beginning. If only he had stayed faithful to the woman who loved him. But it's too late for regrets. Evelyn is gone, and Jonathan is left with nothing but the empty shell of his life. He spends his days wandering through the rooms of their once happy home, staring at the pictures of them together, remembering the good times before everything fell apart. But those memories only bring him pain now, a constant reminder of what he lost. In the end, Jonathan is left alone with his guilt. Samantha is gone from his life, his career is in ruins, and the love of his life is dead because of his actions. He knows he can never make it right, can never undo the damage he's caused. All he can do is live with the consequences of his choices, a broken man haunted by the weight of his own betrayal. As the final scene unfolds, Jonathan sits at the kitchen table, a glass of whiskey in hand. The once pristine house is now a shadow of its former self, much like Jonathan. He stares blankly ahead, lost in his thoughts, as the camera zooms in on his face, capturing the deep lines of regret etched into his features. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience with a lingering sense of sadness and unease. Jonathan's story is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the devastating consequences of betrayal and the irreparable damage that can be caused when we give in to our darkest desires.